Hello! Welcome to the first video in what is a playlist of many, probably too many videos about learning to code. If you have never written any code before, if you've never programmed before, if you don't know anything about programming, it's my intention for this playlist to be for you. So this is the first introductory video. I'm just going to talk about the pieces of the puzzle that I'm going to use throughout this video series and show you where all those things are and kind of a little bit about the history of those things just to get started in learning to code. Learning to code, you don't have to know anything. And all you need is a computer with a web browser to follow along. You don't have to download anything, install anything. I'm so excited about that. Now, here's the thing. If you choose today, August 31st, 2018, if this is the time of the recording, there's many videos that follow this in the playlist. Many of those videos were done a year ago, 2 years ago, 3 years ago. They're using the same exact stuff that I'm going to show you, but the screen is going to look a little bit different. So I'm starting over because there's a new tool that just came out today called the P5JS Web Editor, and it's the tool that I want to use for people following this tutorial series. So the first few videos will have that tool in it, and the rest of the videos are just going to have the same concepts that you could keep using in that editor, and maybe someday all of them will be replaced. I have no idea. I'm going to stop talking about that. That's not the important part, but I wanted to make that clear if you happen to be, if you just want to like race ahead and see all the videos. All right, so what does it mean to program the computer? So what it means to program the computer is to write a set of instructions for the computer to follow. And the way that I'm going to frame that for the purpose of this course is all about writing instructions for the computer to draw pictures. So in other words, you could imagine a window on the computer screen and you're providing instructions for things that should appear in the window. Draw a rectangle, draw a blue rectangle, draw 10 rectangles, draw a rectangle, then a circle, then a rectangle, and a circle, and alternate the colors black and white, black and white, black and white. There are so many ways that we could think about how we might, in English or whatever your native language is, instruct the computer to follow some algorithm. An algorithm being a series of steps to execute to solve a problem. Writing code is instructions to execute an algorithm, a series of steps to solve some particular problem. Now, in this course, we're not going to necessarily solve, hopefully you might solve some problems, but you can also just play around and experiment and make beautiful pictures, and that's where we're going to start. But we need some way of doing this together. Drawing a rectangle, drawing a circle, the computer doesn't understand that. You and I could understand that if we speak the same language, or even if we don't, we might be able to use body language or some other way of kind of human intuition to communicate. But the computer requires specific syntax. And the syntax that you need, the syntax is defined by the programming language you choose to write your code in. And boy, oh boy, oh boy, you know, go have fun Googling what's the best programming language to learn in 2400 and, that doesn't make any sense, 2040, whatever time in the future that you're watching this video. I'm not going to worry myself with any of that stuff. I'm going to pick something. I'm going to pick a programming language called JavaScript. The reason I'm going to pick it is because it happens to be one that I know a little bit. And it also happens to be one in which there is a particular library, and I'll talk about what that is. That is a library of code, of helper functions, of things that'll help you along in JavaScript called P5JS. And this is a particular library that's created by a nonprofit organization called the Processing Foundation. I'll include lots of links about the Processing Foundation and all of its initiatives. It's an open source project, which means it is all there, available. All about how P5JS works is all available for you to learn and find out about. And as a beginner, one of the missions of P5 is beginners learning to code aren't just users of P5, but can be contributors to P5. So you can participate in helping to make this tool that you are learning to use. And I encourage you to get involved with that, and I'm happy to help facilitate that. So by the way, P5JS also grew out of another project that's part of the Processing Foundation, which is just called Processing. It uses, this is very confusing, I realize. I'm going to stop talking about different programming languages in a second. It's built on top of a programming language called Java, which sounds a lot like JavaScript. And in fact, JavaScript was named JavaScript because at the time, Java was like this super cool thing to use. And it still is for me, I suppose. I mean, I like it, but I don't know if you've ever been to one of those web pages where it's like giving you lots of error messages about a Java applet. It's not so well suited for sharing on the web, and JavaScript is the programming language of the browser. So if you want to make this strange picture, which is square, circle, square, circle, square, happen in the browser by writing instructions in JavaScript, you can use the P5JS library. You can share it instantly with your friends, with your family, with your coworkers, with your fellow students. You can get feedback. I'm going to show you how to do all of this in this video series. Now again, it's important to note this is not the only way to learn to program. You know, if you were here in the room with me, I would ask you to just like shout out the names of other programming languages you know about. And you might say like Python or C Sharp or COBOL or PHP or I don't know, something else there, Java, blah, blah, blah. We could keep going on, and these are in no particular order. My goal for you in this course is to learn about the concepts of programming, to be creative with programming, to discover how to realize your own ideas through coding. And this is a nice place for us to start. We're going to get the benefit of being able to put our stuff instantly in the web browser. And if someday you discover some of these other tools make sense for other projects you would like to learn, this is going to give you a foundation of knowledge for that. In this playlist, in this series, and all of the videos that I'm going to make, that I'm going to walk you through learning to code, you will also, somewhat by accident, learn a little bit about something called HTML and CSS. HTML and CSS are the other pieces of the puzzle for making something appear on a web page. I'm going to focus on JavaScript, and you're not going to see anything about HTML and CSS for quite a while. But there's these underlying other mechanics for how content is formatted and styled to appear on a web page. So while this is not a web development course, because I don't know anything about web development, you might by accident learn to do some web development by taking, well, you're not really taking this course, but by watching these videos and following along. All right, so I'm wrapping up this video. And then the next video is really where I'm going to get started. I'm going to show you, hey, this is what you type, and then this is what happens, and this is why this happens when you type it. And this is what happens if you type it this way. This breaks it, but this way fixes it. And we're just going to rinse and repeat and do that over and over again for all the little fundamental pieces and building blocks of learning to create your own software. But I want to just show you a few URLs that you can sort of poke around and read about before you move on to the next video if you're interested. So this is the P5JS website. This is the website that has a place where you can sort of learn about the P5JS project. This reference page is going to be very important because it's the place we're going to look up, like, I forgot what this thing does. We're going to look at the reference page. This learn page has some additional tutorials that you could look at. There's lots of examples here that we could click around and play with. I could just click on an example like Game of Life here, and we could see, this is the code. What is going on here? This looks crazy. Look at all this syntax and punctuation and stuff. By the end of this whole playlist of series, this will make, does that ever make sense to anybody looking at code that you didn't write? I'm not really sure. But you will start to understand what the pieces are. What is the process for building up a particular project like this? And this is a well-known algorithm called the Game of Life. It's a mathematical algorithm that involves how cells on a grid turn black or white based on what the other cells are doing, and it's kind of like this bacterial-like simulation. So, there's so many things we can do. I actually have a whole video tutorial building this up from scratch that you could go and find, but stay with me here. So this is the P5JS website. Once again, I want to mention P5JS was made, actually, one other thing I want to point out here is I want to go here on community. I think it's P5 has a really wonderful community statement, which is really important. So I encourage you to go to the P5JS community statement and read it. P5JS is created by the Processing Foundation. I'll show you the Processing Foundation runs a fellowship program, and here's a whole lot of people. Lauren McCarthy is the creator of the P5JS library. You can learn more about how did this project come about by looking at the Processing Foundation website. The original processing project, which is the Java-based platform, if you're looking for inspiration, I in particular recommend this exhibition page where you can find really lots of interesting and beautiful interactive projects made with code. Okay, now, here's the part that I'm so excited about, because this is like this is a project 2 years in the making, but it's brand new in terms of its announcement today at the time of me making this video. The P5JS web editor. This is an editor that you can use that you can use and write code in the browser, save your projects, share your projects with, look, there's that Game of Life thing again, without anything. They don't need to download anything at all. And I'm going to show you how, look, there I am, that's weird. And I'm going to show you how to use the P5Gs editor while you're learning to code. I do want to mention that if you are interested in all of the features of the web editor, watch this video by Cassie Terakajian. This is not a beginner programming video, but it's a video for people who might know a bit about programming already to see what all the things the web editor can do. She walks you through all of the features. Accessibility is a core feature of the P5 web editor. If you are low vision or blind, there are a lot of features built into the web editor to allow you to code with it. And Matura talks about all the people who contributed to that effort and those accessibility features in this video, as well as if you are a teacher and you want to teach with P5, maybe you want to use these videos or make your own or write your own curriculum. Saber Khan, who does education outreach for the Processing Foundation, talks about that in this video. And I am planning to make my own series about how to use the P5 web editor and Google Classroom together. So if you're interested in that, stay tuned. I'll be making a video on that. Okay, so now this is the P5 web editor. There it is. So, oh look, this is some code. That doesn't look so bad. Function setup, what is that? Create canvas, what is that? Background 220, what is that? Function draw, what is that? This is all the stuff that I'm going to talk about precisely in the next video. So in the next video, I'm going to show you what kinds of things can you type here, what ends up happening over here when you type them, and why. And we're just going to go from there. Video after video after video, adding this piece, then this piece, then this piece, and by the end you can make your own interactive animated game, artwork, data visualization. Who knows? You're going to be much more creative and come up with something much better than I could possibly imagine right now, okay? So if you're excited about that, great. Keep on watching. There's also lots of other things in the world besides programming, like so you could go do that stuff too. And especially like being with people and hugging your neighbors and stuff like that. Maybe that sounded weird. I didn't mean for that to sound weird. I'm gonna go now. I have to stretch my hamstrings because I've got some back problems and that's gonna help. See, I got that in there. All right, see you all later in the next video.